What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new and up and coming survival game. I don't know if you've all noticed or not, but the survival crafting game genre has been making a pretty big comeback in recent times, and this game is no exception. I've been looking forward to this game since I first saw the trailer at the 2021 Game Awards. The mysterious Lovecraftian style immediately drew me in, and I'm super excited for the future of this game. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at developer Inflexion Games' brand new shared survival crafting game, Nightingale. Now, I do want to start off by saying full disclosure, I have been invited to a partner program by developer Inflexion. However, Inflexion have not had any prior review of this video. All information, comments, and opinions are completely my own. They are solely based off of my own experiences of trying the game out for the very first time. Keep in mind the footage you are about to see is from a public stress test build of the game that occurred on February 2nd, 2024. It was live for about 8 to 9-ish hours, and everybody had access to the game during that time frame. Currently, the full release date is slated for PC only early access on February 22nd, 2024. So if you are interested, make sure you put that one on your calendar. This current footage in no way reflects the final product of the game you will expect to see in the coming weeks. Inflexion has stated things are subject to change in the final build and some features are completely disabled as of recording this footage. I do want to be completely transparent and say that there is close testing going on behind the scenes that is still under NDA and embargoes. I have not yet had the opportunity to participate in those tests of the later builds of the game, so my current opinion of the game is based solely on the few hours of testing that I did during this public stress test. Any information I provide in this video is based on my own experience trying to figure things out as I played for the very first time. Although the stress test went on for about 8 to 9 hours, I was only able to manage to get just under 4 hours of playtime due to my own scheduling restraints. I'm in no position to heavily critique the game as a whole. This video is designed to provide only my first impressions in this specific test, and I will most likely do another video once the game releases with a more in-depth look on the features and systems in the game, as since recording of the stress test video, some of those are disabled. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get right into it. So let's start off by looking at the character creator. For the most part, it seems to be pretty standard stuff. You can choose a preset and then dial in facial features and bone structures, much like other MMO style games we see these days. There is an age dial that lets you really suck the life out of your character, and a few other different options for voice lines. These are all things we've seen before, but something I can't say that I have seen personally is the ancestry and lineage options in this game. This was fascinating to me, as you literally pick from other presets in the game and can move the slider around to make your character look more or less like the mother side of the family or the father side of the family. Now, this is going to mess up your prior customization options, but I do feel like for RP players, this is a really cool feature to have. Continuing on, we then have customization for makeup and mouth features before setting our difficulty and finally starting the game. I went ahead and chose to start with some gear, as time to play was very limited and I wanted to try as much of the game as possible. So here we go, loading into the game for the very first time. I spawned on a small island greeted by the first NPC named Puck. Puck introduces you to some of the lore of the game, as well as provides you with your first objectives and quests to begin your journey. From my experience, he is fully voice acted and is rather well done. Puck seems to be very similar to the Crow from games like Valheim in that he keeps you on track and will occasionally appear as you progress through the parts of the game. The first objective is to find a place to make a base in this game called an estate. Your estate is rather important, as before you can do certain parts of the game, you must have a certain estate score to even access them. The building menu seems to allow you to set down skeletons or templates of what you would like to build, and then you are able to apply materials towards that structure. This should feel very familiar to you if you've ever played the game The Forest. The game in a way almost feels very identical when it comes to building and collecting materials. Now, once you have collected enough materials, you should be able to place your first estate cairn. Essentially, you are claiming your plot of land. Anything that you build around the estate cairn will contribute to your estate score and level it up over time. As you can see, this is important as we need to get our estate score to a certain threshold in order to unlock these gates, which we'll go over later in the video. Now, while I was crafting workbenches and decorations for my base, I did notice that there were green lines connecting some of the placeable objects. Reviewing it further, it appears that Nightingale has borrowed ideas from Valheim once again, and that placing objects near others will gain benefits from each other to make them more effective. It appears there are multiple different types of workbenches and crafting stations. There also appears to be higher tiers of the same type of crafting station. I am currently unsure if it is just for lux or additional functionality as well. Unfortunately, I did not get super far into the estate building and crafting menus during my short time with the game, so there's plenty of things to learn once the game does release. While I was playing the game, one of my friends reached out to me saying that he would love to join me, and while he was downloading the game, I went ahead and went on exploring throughout the map, taking a peek at multiple POIs standing tall all over the map. There are multiple large and unique structures scattered around that scream, "Come check me out." Most of the time I found that there may be some loose loot lying around, or a chest, or an electric gate. Later I would figure out that these gates are quest objectives that I need to complete. Once you reach a certain gear, estate, and hope score, you will be able to freely pass through these gates. Gear score is very obvious. It's obviously what is on your character and what type of items you are holding in your inventory, but you may ask, what is hope? So to be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure at this time. I did notice that sometimes when you find certain POIs that have a live event going on, you are able to pick up these glowing orbs, and they are labeled Hope Echoes. Now, I don't know for certain if this is what levels up your score, but I did manage to get it high enough to start the first objective gate. Some of these live event structures do have puzzles like choosing the right buttons in order to unlock the opening to the Hope Echo essence. However, the ones that I did complete were very basic in nature, and if you got the order wrong, enemies would spawn and try to kill you. Now, once you have gathered enough hope, you will be able to go into your first site of power, or the gates. By this time, my friend had gotten on and we built up our estate. During our time of testing, we did achieve enough points to unlock the gates into the Astrolab and the Antiquarian site of power. The Astrolab was right outside of our estate, so we did decide to start there first. Entering into the site started off pretty calm, soaking in the building design and architecture, excited to ascend the stairs to the next level, only to find out that inside the sites were some tough enemies designed to end your whole day. These guys have a lot more health than anything I've run into thus far, and they also do significant amounts of damage. My friend died almost instantly to the one that was swinging two swords aimlessly around, and the AI seems to be pretty relentless and will continue to chase you even outside the site of power. This caused an area of concern as I attempted to hide inside of our estate, and the enemy made quick work of our raggedy shack that we had made, taking out an entire wall and a door. After dying many times, we managed to kill them and continue up the spire. So it does appear that there are multiple chests scattered throughout the site of power, but don't forget to search below as well. Descending down the stairs leads you to a cave system that eventually leads you to a room with large mechanical arms shooting beams of lightning into a small pyramid crystal. If you press the button, a short animation begins before spawning a boss encounter. The boss seems to have a fair bit amount of health, not to mention that it does spawn minion robots that again are relentless in their pursuit of the player. This fight happened to be very difficult to say the least. It was pretty easy to figure out the weak points on the boss and aim for that location. However, I'm not sure if I just wasn't properly geared for this encounter or it was just my poor strategy, but multiple deaths occurred trying to take this boss down. I had all but exhausted all of my ammo for my gun, and I had to resort to pickaxing some of the minions to finish them off. To be completely honest, I wasn't really a big fan of the fight. There's not much room in here to move around, and with the minions chasing you, you constantly have to always be on the move, healing in hopes that you don't die. There's not any variation to the combat. It felt pretty repetitive, and most of the time it was spent trying to revive my friend or burning through health potions. Obviously, this is one of the first elite or boss fights that I did encounter, so I can't speak on how it goes later in the game, but hopefully there's a little more variety and engagement in the future. After clearing the boss, you are prompted to then unlock the corresponding card. Now, I'm not sure how this is done as I did not get far enough to be able to do it, but there are locations around the map to play realm cards or use them to travel to other realms, and I would assume that those would be involved in some of the process. By this time, my friend got off and I was back to playing solo. I proceeded to check out the only other site of power that I had access to at this time. This appears to be more directly related to the story, as there are 3 NPCs outside its entrance, being Wilhelmina, her company worker Alvin, and Norman, the essence trader. There appears to be many things you can get for essence, and you will want to make sure you're collecting it throughout your travels. I then decided to attempt to solo the site of power, and this did not go very well at all. I again ran into the same issue I had before, where enemies literally were not too bad when I was keeping my distance from them, but as soon as a large horde aggroes onto you and comes after you, there's not much you can do at all. I cleared all of the dungeon and again was faced with a boss fight. I was very quickly killed and chose not to run all the way back to this side of power, as it was all the way on the opposite side of the island from where my estate and respawn point was. Also, the stress test was about to end around this time, so I spent the rest of the time looking around and enjoying the scenery. The game is really very beautiful, and the sunsets are something to really marvel at. The night cycles have a bit of moonlighting with a bit of spacey northern light show reflecting off of rocks and the ocean surfaces on the mainland. This was particularly cool to see, as it excites me to see what kind of ambience they have managed to pull off in some of the other biomes and realms in the future of the game. This is one of the main drivers that got me really excited, as it again looks very Lovecraftian and dystopian, as well as a little steampunk and Victorian as well. All of these things come together to make the game look fantastic, and I'm super excited to see what else is in store for the player. So after briefly looking around the current island, the stress test did end unfortunately, and all the servers were shut down. I logged in just under 4 hours of playtime. However, reviewing some of the other content creators' thumbnails on Twitch, it did look like they had gotten much further in the game than I had. So if you do want to see more of the game, make sure you check out some other content creators as well. But here are my initial thoughts. The game has a lot of potential for sure. There are a couple of performance issues in some of the areas of the map, while others run really perfectly. The AI could use some improvement. They do feel kind of generic, kind of like the cannibals from the forest, where once they detect you, they just relentlessly run around and attack you until you confuse them by running away. There's a guidebook in the menus that do give you tips on how to play the game, but it was a bit overwhelming at first trying to figure out what exactly I was supposed to be doing. Again, I went into the stress test completely blind, and getting my bearings did take a bit of time. I still only managed to scratch just the surface of the game. The puzzles I encountered were interesting, and hopefully they're further expanded upon, as again, the ones that I did solve were really easy, and hopefully there's more of that in other realms or maybe in difficult sections of the game. Fortunately, all of these issues I have with the game can be fixed over time to make the game feel even more dynamic. There is a possibility they may have already been improved, as again, this test was on a public test build of the game and things may have changed for the final game. But if they haven't addressed these things yet, in Flexion, these definitely could use some review and polishing. The game has a really good foundation. If you like The Forest or Sons of the Forest, you're really going to like this game, as it plays almost identically in most ways. They also appear to be heavily inspired by the game Valheim when it comes to the realms and crafting systems. If you're a fan of either of those games, this game will be right up your alley. I look forward to continuing to testing and trying out more of the game in the future. As I do find out more information on the game and continue to enjoy it and play it, I will continue to upload content. As for now, we will wait until the NDA embargo lifts and the game is fully ready to release. If you do want to stay up to date on Nightingale, make sure you do sign up on their website and follow them on all social media. They do have a Discord server that does provide updates, and mods are always available to answer questions. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I do look forward to doing more Nightingale content in the very near future. Hopefully, if you liked the video, you'll like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support that I can get. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and peace.